Welcome back to the Easy Hard versus Hard podcast, a podcast dedicated to help you find the work that's meaningful in your life. Today, I am super excited to welcome Gregg Swanson to the show. Gregg is a certified mental strength and peak performance coach with over 20 years of experience. He specializes in helping ambitious professionals, executives, and entrepreneurs flip the burnout script. His mission is simple: helping people reclaim their masculine edge, reconnect deeply with their purpose, and perform at elite levels without selling your soul. Gregg is the founder of Warrior Mindset Coaching, a trusted source by professionals in tech, finance, health, and leadership, and he's featured as a mindset trainer in BetterUp's global coaching platform. He's also authored multiple books, written hundreds of articles, and hosts a podcast, also the same name, Warrior Mind, podcast, and is dedicated to mental strength and the warrior mindset. So, Gregg, without further ado, welcome, and why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Bobby, thank you so much. I don't know what else there's to say. You covered everything there. It's like, wow, are you talking about me? You know, really quite humble with all of that. But no, it's a pleasure to be here and speak with you today.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and you have a really great story, especially a lot of the content I've read about overcoming burnout, the effects of motivation and how it can be deceiving, and you got to find that inspiration. I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's the way I read it. So tell us a little bit about your burnout method and how you help people overcome that.
Well, I'll go back to my previous life, I was in high-tech telecom sales, and I had the state of California and the state of Hawaii as a territory. Now, before you feel too bad for me for Hawaii, there was some uniqueness with it because the clients there don't see you regularly like in California when I was living there. So I'd go over to Hawaii, would have breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, in between meetings, and it wasn't so bad. It was in Hawaii, right? But when I was covering, my quota at that time was around 40 million every year I had to do. And California is a big state. And so there was a lot of getting up early, driving to the client site, driving back, trying to get a workout in. And it just kept just really overwhelming me. And I started dropping off things that I'd like to do. Like I wouldn't go for hikes on the weekend because I had to catch up on work. I would come home at, late in the evening because I had to finish work. So that's where this whole, for me personally, experience of fatigue started to come into and burnout. And what I did is just I had to schedule my day, right? Even though my own personal time, you figure I would know how to work it. But what I ended up doing, what I ended up doing was creating 4 segments of the day: AM routine, a work routine, a PM routine, and a sleep routine. And that was the beginning of my own personal journey down anti-burn prevention, I guess.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach. I've heard of the time boxing and using your time more efficiently, but I've never heard like that kind of breakout. You want to go into a little bit about when you did the work block, you when that ended, it just ended, and then you went on to the next one. Is that sort of how you worked it, or okay?
Correct. So the AM portion or the routine, I made sure that there was a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual component to it. So let's just say I'd wake up at 4 o'clock, meditate for a half hour, go to the gym, set my mindset. And what I found is during that AM routine, I completely I don't even check emails, texts, anything else, because that can drain my energy for the day. And that starts the burnout, right? So the AM routine was very selfish for myself. And then the work routine was making sure that it was effective and efficient. Effective means doing the right things. Efficient means doing those things right, which means that if you have a big project, you know what to do, but are you doing it first thing in the morning when you get to work as opposed to checking emails? A lot of folks will check emails. They'll be on emails doing stuff for 1 or 2 hours, and then their motivation, their energy has died, and they don't want to do their big projects, so they stay late. So when we flip it, become effective and efficient. And then the PM is to pre-plan. Part of it's to pre-plan for the next day. What three things would make tomorrow a great day, personally and work-wise, and then reflecting on what you did today and being grateful for it. And then sleep is making sure that you have, your bedroom cold, dark, and no blue screens and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of science on all of this. But when we can purposely segment the day into 4 quadrants, we then have control over each part of it as opposed to thinking the day as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. I like that breakout, and I especially like a couple of things that you said. One, I think that morning routine, and you're going to see this all over. I mean, there's so many self-help books on morning routines these days, but the whole cold plunge sauna journaling
Right.
thing. And what I always tell my clients and people I talk to is you got to find what works for you, because what works for you, Greg, what may not work for me, what works for me may not work for the listeners. But I also practice that too, where in the mornings, the first hour and a half, 2 hours of my day are dedicated to me getting my mind right. And I do the kind of an opposite approach than you. I lay out the 3 things I want to do that day. And once I get to those 3 main things, I stop. I like to tell people I only give myself 30 minutes a day to think, which is kind of funny because, you think all day, but really think, because I found that any more than 30 minutes, I start bringing in self-fear. And like you said, you'll start hitting emails, you'll start procrastinating because you don't want to accomplish the big task on your plate. And then of course the protecting your sleep. I mean, we could have a whole series of podcasts on that, but I do find in our culture today, people do not really guard that time. And there's a joke in my neighborhood that if it's after 9 o'clock, I'm in bed,
Right.
because I'm also an early riser. 4 o'clock is my average or my most wake up. But did you find during this period of burnout, because my whole theory is that a lot of burnout comes from doing work that we don't really want to do. And I know you're not in the IT arena now, but would you say that that was something that you really wanted to do at the time, looking back at it?
I would classify it as lack of boundaries, right? And so when we teach people how to treat us, whether it's personal or work. And if we leave our calendars open and people just start dumping on our calendar, oh, you have to go to this meeting, you have to go here, you have to go there, or hey, can you get this done for me today? I need something done important. We're just telling people that, hey, I have no respect for my time. I have no respect for my work. Just dump on me and I'll take care of it. And so part of that is, boundaries, which is your time blocks, being really, really specific with it. And for instance, if there's a concept called deep work, and I think it's actually a book, but when we think about doing the proactive stuff first thing, not reactive, proactive, schedule that time, let's say from 9 to 10, use a Pomodoro method to manage your energy. But then you do that. You turn off your text, you turn off your DMs, you turn off everything. Because then, I mean, you're paid to do the deep work. You're not paid to answer emails.
Yeah.
Right. So if all you did was answer emails all day, at the end of the week, your boss came to you, asked you what you did. Well, I answered all these emails. They could care less. Right. So we need to put priorities in with our boundaries, set our boundaries, and that's our priority. And then when we get those 3 things done for the day, it's a dynamite day. It's awesome. And that energy kind of prevents the burnout. But that burnout is, like you say, is doing things that we don't want to do, and we don't do them because of lack of boundaries.
Yeah, yeah. And I really struggled with, after I got the 3 things, then when time was left in the day, I'd want to go after 4, 5, and 6. And there are some days where I can do that, but I have to recheck with myself and check my energy and make sure it's not going against what I did because for so long I was just running at full bore, or what I thought was for full bore the entire day. And what I found was a lot of these easy kind of work things that we do that fill up a lot of time but are non-productive. Once you cut those out or limit the time, I don't know if you've ever read The 4 Hour Work Week
Yep.
by Tim Ferriss, but he has says in that, like, I think he checks his email like once a week or once a day at like 12 o'clock or whatever time it is, and that's all he does. And once you can get away from email, and in the corporate society today, they're using email as if it's communication. People won't come and talk to you anymore, or have a deep conversation at the water cooler. Even they'll just send you an email. And then they may see you later and say, "Oh, I sent you an email. Did you read it?" Well, no, that's not the purpose of email. Email is one of those things that's like it's an archive. You can go to it whenever you want. You can handle it when you want. And I do think there's a priority on the deep work, as you call it, or the really hard. I like to accomplish the hardest thing that I have of the three right off the bat, because I find my mental energy, my clarity, everything is right off the bat in the morning. Did you find like certain sweet spots in the day that work better for you?
Right. And so that's the, circadian rhythm, ultradian rhythm, and chronotype, right? The four chronotypes. And when I start working with my clients, we start to align all of those. I think it's the lion wakes up early, peaks by 10 o'clock in the morning, and then goes downhill in the afternoon. So I would know when I peak, and that's when I would do my deep work, my proactive work, my creative work, whatever. Even now, I still do that. So when I can help clients find their chronotype and work with their rhythm to do the deep work, the hard work, then things get done. I mean, it's like a waste of this energy to be motivated, inspired, and then you answer emails. Seriously?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You lose most of your cognitive ability at that point, wasted on, answering something. Or, and do you use any tools, like any tracking devices or anything to help people zone in on their chronotype or what their best times of the day are?
Well, I think the Sleep Foundation has a list on there, the four types: dolphin, lion, wolf, and I forgot the other one. And you kind of just you look at it. There are some assessments out there, but it's just generally, if we pay attention to when we're the highest energy, that's a good indication, because we can get so granular with it that, oh, I need to peak at 10:01 to 10:02, and after it's done, I'm gone. Like, no, we don't have to get that minute.
Yeah, so sometimes metrics themselves will burn you out because
Right.
everyone says what can be measured can be tracked or can be improved or whatever. But sometimes you're just measuring to measure, and there's no reason. I like to say sometimes if you're driving across country, if I was going to come see you in Colorado, maybe I'd glance at a map every so often, make sure I'm going the right way. But I don't need to know miles per gallon, average miles per hour, all those kind of things, because
Right.
it doesn't help me anymore. In fact, it may burn me out. If one hour I got 70 miles an hour and then the next one was 30, well, then I'd be like, oh, I'm never going to get to see Greg. And so I think people can really help eliminate their burnout if they look at things like look at metrics when they're appropriate, because sometimes performance can be like, if you're in the gym for whatever and you want to get stronger, obviously, you may want to look at your metrics and decide if you're getting stronger in that
Right.
room. But in the day-to-day world, I think a lot of these metrics, because there's all these things, Whoop and Aura. I personally wear an Aura ring only because I use it because I want to see where my stress levels are through the day, but I don't obsess about it. I mean, I look at it in the morning, I look at it at night, and that's it. And then I check in with my body, because I think awareness, but what do you think do you think that the lack of awareness or the lack of being connected to who you are sometimes leads to burnout just as much as the work we're doing?
Well, yeah, absolutely, because burnout is putting our focus away from ourselves, right? It's putting on what the boss wants, what my significant other wants, what my friends want, with, again, lack of boundaries, and just not focusing on ourselves, or, even looking at our purpose with that. One of the higher levels I bring clients to is, in addition to defining the purpose, is creating a code of honor, like Bushido. Is like, so when the day comes along, there's no decisions. It's within our code or it's not. If it's not within our code, we don't pay attention to it. If it's within our code or aligns with our purpose, we do it. But we get distracted so much because we're afraid to say no for all sorts of other social and psychological issues. But I found that when we can be definitive on our North Star or our lighthouse, whatever we want to call it, our purpose, and then our code of honor, life gets easier.
Yeah, yeah. I found that personally in my self-improvement journey. I found I was looking so much for the admiration of others, the praise of others, that I lost a sense of who I was. And if I'm comparing myself to you or anyone else every single day, then that also leads to burnout, because I don't know what you're thinking. I don't really know what your expectations are. But I do know that once I got away from myself, that I was a lot more stressed, a lot more unhappy, even depressed in a lot of instances, because I wasn't living my ideals. Have you found that to be true in some of your clients?
Right. And you make a really interesting point is that internal dialogue of am I comparing myself with somebody else reduce or contributes to burnout. And effectively, there's a book called Willpower, right? And we wake up with, we'll just say, 100 units of mental energy. And when we look at our text, when we have these conversations, oh, I wonder what somebody will think of what I'm wearing, what I'm doing here. When we have those conversations, it just drops our level of mental energy till almost nothing. And so then when we hit like 10%, we're burnout, and we could hit that by 9 o'clock in the morning with all the dialogue that we have.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of research too around like the dopamine hits and how much that drains you when
Right.
especially when you're looking at dopamine from the the acceptance or the praise of others, and it really it's funny in this culture when I tell people they need to be more selfish. And
Hmm.
the more you self guard, and some people don't like the word selfish because it has negative connotations, but it doesn't once you live it. If you're selfish with like your morning block, your AM block, then the rest of your day is set up so you can then serve others and you can be present for others and you can be more effective in your work. But so many people don't, I don't know why they don't grasp it. Do you have any theories on that?
Part of it, right, is culture. We've all been taught from, religion, spiritual parents, or everything. Oh, you're selfish. But when we aren't, the other person is selfish by
Yeah.
expecting us. So it's okay for them to be selfish, asking us to do things, but it's not okay for us to be selfish to say no to it. That that doesn't jive, right? And so there's, enneagrams that come into play and archetypes and all sorts of internal muses or not that work with it. But when we can understand that selfish is saying yes to us and no to other things, and when we understand it, that, hey, if you want to go to the gym and somebody says, hey, can you, paint my house with me? You go, no, I need to go to the gym. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then if you have time later, help them paint their house if that's what you want to do.
Right.
S- I heard that if you say yes to one thing, you say no to many things. But when you say no to
Yeah.
one thing, you only say no to one thing. That was profound for me when I heard it about a year ago because I was so scared of just saying no or having to give a reason. Well, maybe the
Right.
reason is like I just need to go to the gym. People
Right.
tell me all the time, they're like, "Oh, I missed the gym today. You know how that is." I have no idea what they're talking about. Not to
Right.
be
Right.
glib,
Right.
but because the gym is a priority to me, because I know that if I hit the gym, then I'm going to be the best husband, the best worker, the best, brother, whatever it is. And if I don't, well, it's been so long since I haven't hit the gym. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He's like, yeah, you go on vacation and it's hard to get back in the routine. And I just had to say, well, never get out of your routine.
Right. Right.
You could always do push-ups, full body squats, or whatever. I know this isn't a fitness episode, but I know we're both passionate about fitness. Where do you link that to the mental health and the burnout? I mean, what have you found in yourself and then clients that does?
Oh, the physical activity is important. And to the person who said it's hard to get back, it's like that's a limiting belief. And so you challenge it. Really, who said it's hard? Maybe if you said it's because we act in accordance to what we say. And I don't get off on a tangent here in a bit, but our words don't describe, they create. So if we say it's hard to get back in the gym, we have to make it hard so our internal and external align. Right. We need to have alignment all the time, perceptions, projection, those things. So if somebody says it's hard to get back in there, they're going to lollygag for a week and then, okay, I finally got there. Where they go, no, it's easy. I just wake up at the same time and go. Right. Two people, you get up early, you go on vacation, right? And so it's interesting that how much words or limiting beliefs hold us back. But I'm a huge proponent on physical activity. It has to. It's a must as far as I'm concerned with coaching. Whether we start off with doing, a 5 minute walk or a sun salutation, but physical activity really, there's so much benefits to it. I just, I'm amazed at how many people don't do it with all the science out there on how beneficial it is to our brain health and our overall well-being.
Yeah, yeah, it shocks me too because, but I fell into that trap too. I mean, as we talked earlier, I found myself at age 42 weighing 354 pounds, and so I, going back to what we were talking about, the expectations of others, I was so tuned into what others thought of me and what I thought others wanted me to be that I stopped taking care of my body. I stopped listening to all, I mean, it hurt to get out of a chair every day, but yet I'd still sit in a chair because I thought that working 12, 14 hours
Mhm.
made me a better person. It would make me like myself more. And then even when I started losing the weight, I didn't do it for the right reasons either. I did it because I didn't want to be seen as fat. I didn't want people to make fun of me. And I tell you what, that didn't help either. So that I think going back to this whole burnout thing, I think once you find what you want to do, and I mean, I know I am biased. It's my whole theory of leadership and based on self-leadership, but I truly believe so many people talk about how we do work, but very few people are talking about what work we're doing. And by work, I don't mean your 9 to 5. I mean your work on yourself, what's in between your ears every single day, the way you interact with others, the way you interact with yourself. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on onto that kind of that self leadership and driving yourself. I mean, let me help. I'll lead the witness a little bit here. Have you ever found a situation where someone had to kind of stop what they were doing so they could, truly focus and become, the person that they were meant to be?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of those examples with myself and my client. But what I want to emphasize is we can still have purpose in our work, in our vocation,
Yeah.
and then we can live life on purpose. An example is when I was reaching the end of my sales career, I was hitting my numbers and everything was making money, but I lost my heart going, why am I doing this? Why am I, it's a box. It's a $5 million box. And it's like, why? So I went, on a weekend, went out walking in the woods, contemplating it, and making a long story short, what I came to realize that there's a grandmother in New York that can talk to her granddaughter in California. If it wasn't for that box, they wouldn't be able to communicate. So I took the perspective, my purpose is to bring families together.
Oh,
And
wow.
when I realized that, it my efforts were effortless in trying to make my quotas. And so when we do things, it's like the butterfly effect, right? It's 6 degrees of separation. What we do at work affects not just us, but six other people. And when we understand how it affects their life, we can take a different perspective on the work we do. Now, shifting to our life purpose, that is something, living on purpose. There's been so many books and articles and stuff reading on that. And I feel that that is truly, truly important. That you started off the interview with inspiration and motivation, right? Motivation is external. Somebody yelling at you, somebody giving you a reward, somebody doing something. Inspiration when it comes from inside, and purpose ignites that inspiration so that we can do the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual things we want.
You bring up such a great example about your 9 to 5, your profession, so to speak, and you turned what you were doing, even though it wasn't what you wanted to do, you turned it into your purpose. And I tell people all the time, like when you're looking to make a change, you don't need to burn the bridges. That simple switch you had is monumental in my mind because you were doing something that you knew you didn't want to be doing forever, but yet you turned it to your purpose. And I'm assuming your purpose today with helping people with burnout and doing the coaching and all the great things that you're doing is also to help people bring people together because once you eliminate burnout, stress, anxiety in your life, you do have more time and
Mhm.
more present time or valuable time with your loved ones, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, working and even through the physical part of it, this might be off on a tangent, but I often challenge men. I said, if you live in a house, two-story house, the stairway catches on fire, the only way you can go is outside the window down a rope. Are you strong enough to put your family on your back and go down the rope and save them?
Yeah.
And so that drives the point of physical fitness. Why should I do it? Well, you may have to jump out the window, but your family's going to be there burning to death.
Yeah, I mean, you take stock of what could happen, right? And prepare for it and be over prepared for it. You watch these movies a lot of times, these action movies, and a guy's hanging from a helicopter while it's flying, and you're often like, well, could I do that? Well, the best way is just go get a pull-up bar and see how long you can hang. And if it's 20
Right.
seconds today, try to make it a minute, try to make it 2 minutes.
Right.
You probably will never need to do that. But at the same time, I'm a true believer, and this will be interesting to talk to you as a burnout expert. I think you need to push your boundaries to find out where your edge is, because most people I find they they're where they think they're burned out, they're really not. They could go so much further. And again, I know that's a little dangerous because you get a personality like me, and if you could run 5 miles, why don't you run 10 or 20 or 100 or whatever? But what do you think about that? I mean, knowing where your limits are so you can then set those boundaries you talked about earlier.
Right. No, I think that's important. I think that people fall short of it, and I don't think they're burned out, they're bored.
Yeah.
So boredom, right, is sitting, is doing nothing. I have this concept of kind of like a stock market where you have your mental line of support and your mental line of resistance. And you push yourself up to this mental line of resistance, then you stop, and then you go down to the mental line of support. That support could be rock bottom. I weigh 320 pounds. I got to do something about it. I'm not making any money. And they go up, and the resistance is their edge, right? And they get there, and they make great progress till they get to that edge, that mental line of resistance. And then, oh, that's okay. I'll have this cake. I'll do this later. And they start making excuses. They start getting bored because it's uncomfortable. The more we get to that edge, the more uncomfortable it is. And so we start to bail on it without knowing how to bust through it. But once we bust through it, now the fun starts because that mental line of support is now our mental line of resistance is now our rock bottom. So what our top is now is changed to our rock bottom.
Wow, yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but that is true, because you find so many people say I've tried everything, and I wrote about this last week that maybe you think you've tried everything, but maybe you didn't try it long enough. And I was watching this documentary they put out on Netflix about that show, The Biggest Loser. I don't know if you remember that show, and
Oh yeah,
they're basically showing how, like, a lot of those people, they lost 200 pounds, 150 pounds or whatever. Most of them gained it back or more. And of course they're putting blame. And that's another thing that I think leads to burnout, is all the blame or the excuses we make for ourselves and others. But what I would have loved to seen is a study of how many of those people where they were working out 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and then they left the show. They probably just stopped, and maybe they worked out for a couple, but no one can sustain 8 hours of working out a day. I mean, we're not professional athletes, most of us. Um, but I think you bring up a really good point. Once you get to somewhere close to the edge, keep pushing, because you've got to instill those habits. You've got to instill that into your body, whether it's working out, whether it's work, whether it's prayer, meditation, whatever you're doing, you've got to do it. You can't just get there. You have to do it long enough so it instills those skills and that muscle memory, if you will. Have you found anything like that, or do you think I'm off base there?
no, and back to The Biggest Loser, that was all motivation.
Yes.
There was no, there was very little inspiration, right? People were there to make money, to be on TV, to get fame, to get fortune, to get accolades, all the external rewards. Once the show stopped, once they weren't on TV anymore, there's no more motivation, and they didn't have the inspiration to continue. They didn't have the inspiration to be, I need to be able to play with my kids, my grandkids, and my great grandkids. I need to be able to get up out of a chair by myself. Right? All that inspiration was gone. And so with The Biggest Loser, it was entertainment, right? But unfortunately, people suffered in their own lives because of that. But what you talked about, well, push my limits. I run a mile. I should run 2 miles. Well, there's something else you can do, right? You could run a mile and then get what's called a concentration grid. So it's what athletes use. It's 0 to 99. The numbers are randomly placed in a square, and you could do the concentration grid, time yourself before you run the mile as fast as you can, do the concentration grid again. How long did it take you versus when you're relaxed versus under pressure?
Hmm. Hmm. I've never even heard of this concentration grid. That's
Right. It's used with athletes so that they can maintain focus, right? If the athletes get out there and they start looking around, they lose focus, they're going to drop the ball, miss the putt, whatever it might be. So a concentration grid helps them. It's a 9 by 9, right? So it's 0 to 99. And the goal is to circle zero, then one, two, three, four, and time yourself till you get to 99.
huh.
When we're calm and relaxed, it's fine. We may take you 2 minutes, but then you run a mile as fast as you can. Your heart rate's elevated, your mind's going great. Then you try to do the same concentration period. It might take you 5, 10 minutes because you're, I don't know what it is, right? And
Yeah.
so the goal would be is still run the mile, but lower the time on the concentration grid. That pushing our edge.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe that's why some people, do give up on the working out. We talked about earlier that all the science and all of this out there, but maybe they run a mile and then they can't perform whatever they're doing for the next 2 or 3 hours because their body's in stress and trauma. I don't know. I mean, I'm creating theories as we go here, but that's a very I never thought about that because your mind does kind of change once you're under pressure and stress and running. I mean, and some stress is good. I mean, everyone's like, oh, cut out stress. Well, anytime you do any kind of physical exercise, you're doing some stress. It's like, how do you adapt to that stress? And I'm sure
Right. There's stress and distress, right? And distress is you're being chased by a lion. Eustress is doing something you want to do, climb a mountain, work out, CrossFit or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. I mean, even the word selfish, stress, all these things we put these labels on it, and we always put the most negative label on it. So people are like, "Oh, I just not going to do it. That stresses me out, so I'm not going to do it." But in reality, you're building that threshold to stress, and so the next time you experience mental stress or anguish or whatever, you're going to be stronger for it. And I wish I say this all the time. I wish I could put all this in a bottle or a pill and give it to people, but they're going to have to go out there and do it. And I know as a coach, you're probably action oriented. Saying or knowing about something is not enough. I mean, listening to our podcast today, people might say, "Oh, that's a great idea." What would you do to tell a listener to not motivate them, but inspire them? What words of wisdom can you give them to go out there and do these things and not just listen to us?
Right. So one of the things is we start with the physical because the physical for me is the easiest, but also the toughest. Is it, you can go out for a 5 minute walk. Great. Then next week, do a 6 minute walk. But one of the things, there's this 5 by 5, will you benefit from it 5 minutes from now, 5 hours from now, 5 days from now, right? Well, look at if you keep doing what you're doing, not doing, doing what you're doing, which means that you're not doing something. Where's your life going to be? And when I work with clients is what would be the reason? What would you tell yourself 5 years from now to inspire you to start working out, to start doing some physical activity? Look at yourself. And I have them stand, you know, in a video, but stand in one part of the room, look at their future self, talk to the future self, go stand in their NLP, right? Stand there and then talk back to them to get, so they are motivating themselves, but because it's the same person, it's also inspiring themselves.
Yeah.
So finding that why, the why would you want to wake up at 4 o'clock? I don't know. Well, if you did know, what would it be? Well, maybe I could get more done, right? More done for work or more done for yourself. Right? And so just this, they have to get that ignition going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The first step is maybe the hardest, but and there may be a journey of 1,000 leagues, right? Begins with the first step. So you're still gonna have 999 more steps. And I like that because you give yourself an ideal, but you're not saying like by the 1,000 steps, I'm gonna run the mile in 4 minutes. Well, if you start off running a 15-minute mile, probably you're not going to get to a 4-minute mile after 1,000 runs, right? And so I think that realistic, there's the SMART goals that people say, and again, I don't like all these kind of mnemonics and all this because I think they give people an ideal, and a lot of times, even though they say realistic and the SMART, a lot of times people don't set realistic goals. I know I personally don't. And once you live in an ideal and you don't get it, like let's say I want to run a 4-minute mile and I give myself a year, and at a year mark I'm running a 5-minute mile. Am I a failure? No. I mean, look back at what you do. I think you always need to look back look forward, readjust. Do you have any thoughts on
Right.
that?
And that's where we have been programmed to measure how much we fell short versus how far have we come.
Yeah.
Right? If you were going to have a goal of running a 7-minute mile and you had it set for the end of August, you go out and run it, you do an 8-minute mile. Well, first, you got 90% there. Second, shoot again for next month. Don't stop it. That's what happens when people, when they don't hit the goal, they just give up. Like, no, extend it another time. The T, right? SMART, extend it, because we're teaching ourselves to give up. And when we give up, how you do anything is a reflection of how you do everything. So if we give up on one goal, we're going to give up on all of them. And then we're not going to set any goals. We're just going to, you know, be at the whims of everybody else's discretion.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, give yourself the courage to start, but also give yourself the courage to adapt and the courage to finish.
Right. Correct and continue.
Yeah, I love that. Correct and continue, because we're not perfect. We don't know. I mean, if you start today on a journey, when I started my weight loss journey, I wanted to get to 250 pounds. I didn't put a timeline on it. That was a number I wanted to get to. Well, I mean, then I got down to 180. It blew my mind. But again, I wasn't, it didn't happen overnight, right? It took a lot of time. Someone asked me what the key to losing weight is. And I think this is the key to anything: consistency. Just
Mhm.
go out there and do it and keep doing it. And again, don't keep doing, don't be insanity. Like Albert Einstein says, don't expect different results if they're not working, but
Right.
just keep doing something. Always just keep moving forward. But
Yep.
well, listen, I know you're kind of short on time, and I want to be cognizant of that. Anything else you want to wrap up before my final easy, hard versus hard question for you?
Right. No, but this has been absolutely wonderful, Bobby. I really appreciate the time that you took for this and enjoyed the conversation immensely.
Oh yeah, me too, me too. And I will put all your information, how people can connect to you. But is there anything real quick you just want to give a shout out in case they don't read the show notes? Where can they find you, Gregg?
My website is warriormindcoach.com, and you can find my email there. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all under Warrior Mind Coach. So reach out through any of those channels.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I really encourage it. Your stuff is great. It inspires me, and it helps feed my intrinsic motivation as well. When the days that I need that little emotional support.
Right.
All right. In closing, I ask all my guests this, but Gregg, what would you say is your current hard work that you're doing?
Hard work is at the gym, right? I we talked about tracking, right? And so I track specifically, and I will either go up 1 rep or 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds each time. And so what my mindset is, when I can do more at the gym today than I did tomorrow, I can do that in life. I can do that with my clients. I can do that with myself. I can do that otherwhere. I leverage the heck out of physical activity to manage my mental, emotional, and spiritual time. So my hard is doing Kaizen, right? The Japanese Kaizen, a little bit better each day.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that 1% improvement every day. If you can shoot for it mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, I mean, wow. In a year, what's that? 365%. I know that's not really a thing, but yeah.
And
But
just to underscore that real quick, back to weights, right? Guys usually go and they up their weights by 10, 20 pounds and they fail and they go back. And I asked somebody, if you could just add 1 pound to your bench press, you would have had 52 pounds at the end of the year.
yeah, yeah. I like those fractional plates, and I know we're short coming to an end here, but maybe we can have another discussion later about physical, because like I said, I enjoy the weightlifting and finding new things and experimenting with that as well. But you're right. I mean, add a pound, and they make them. People maybe make fun of you when they see them in your home if you do them in a home gym or bring them to your gym. But I tell you, they're amazing, and they even make them quarter pounds. So I mean, hey,
Right. But that can be done in life, right? If you're going to
yes.
do 10 minutes for your KPI or your deep work, tomorrow do 11 minutes, then do 12 minutes, right? And then you start doing more deep work and you stop doing less reactive work.
Yeah, yeah. And eventually you're going to find your sweet spot, and you're going to enjoy, because I'm assuming that you don't always gain strength, because if you did, you'd probably be benching and deadlifting thousands of pounds at this point. There comes a limit, but it's like, where is the limit for that period of your life, right?
And then you change up, and then you
yeah.
change up your routine and stuff. Like in life, you change up your routine when it gets to a point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Reassess, reevaluate, but just keep moving forward. I think we've beat that into people's heads today. But I do encourage everyone, please reach out to Gregg. Always, you can reach out to me if you have any further questions. But Gregg, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And to all those of you who are listening, thank you for your time. And until next time, keep chasing your hard work and finding the work that actually matters to you. Have a great day, everyone.